Welcome to the High Priestess. So, we are going to be working with this divine goddess energy, this beautiful woman. And to be honest, the High Priestess is my absolute favorite card. This energy is really what kicks off the supernatural and spiritual experience of this course. Working with the High Priestess is what really allows us to open up that third eye, to have those sort of psychic intuition, impressions, to receive dreams, to have deeper understandings that are felt deep within the heart. The High Priestess is the guardian of the mysteries, and she has beautiful gifts for all of you working with her energy. When I see her pulled in a tarot deck, I always get very excited because this tells me that someone is really opening up to their spirituality. And for them to be able to expand and to connect in, the answer to that is to work with the power of the moon. And as most of you know, I'm all about working with the power of the moon, and every new moon and full moon I hold gatherings with the House of Mem. So connecting with that energy is very, very important in the alchemical practice. And for the next 2 weeks, you get to work with her intimately. So welcome in the High Priestess. She's coming to initiate you into a new level of perception and awareness.
In this image, we see a beautiful priestess standing on the edge of the waters of the void, with, of course, the infamous Stonehenge circle there as she connects in with the powers of spirit. Today, of course, as we look at the High Priestess card, this image here is a beautiful image to help us connect in with the energy of the High Priestess and, of course, the movement of spirit sitting on the waters of the void, the great space of infinite potential. Before we get started, I wanted to share this beautiful quote from Albert Einstein, and just to give you some encouragement in your studies. So seek wisdom. Never regard study as a duty, but as an inviolable opportunity to learn to know the liberating influence of beauty in the realm of spirit, for your own personal joy and to the profit of the community to which your later works belong. Albert Einstein. Of course, from the quote from the Alchemy 101 course, we have wisdom is of the heart, knowledge is of the mind. So don't see this work that you're doing as being something as a duty, but see this as an opportunity. See it as an opportunity to begin to be influenced by beauty in the realm of spirit, and that the joy and the profit that you'll receive from this will not only extend out into your personal life, but also into the life of your community. Looking at the card of the High Priestess, the Hebrew letter connected with the High Priestess is Gimel, which the symbol for the letter itself is said to represent a camel. And so for the High Priestess, I have written a camel carrying the waters of life, walking the path of 13, 1 and 3, to form the fourth, forever guarding the pillars of intuition upon the gnosis of our hearts to spring forth life, the baptism of spirit, Alchemy 101. So we're going to be talking a lot about this power of the baptism of spirit, because this is really what the High Priestess embodies, and the knowledge of this sort of baptism connected to the power of the moon. Before we do that, I wanted to cover a little bit about the Nag Hammadi Codex. So the Nag Hammadi Codex was discovered in Egypt in 1945, and it consists of 13 leather-bound papyruses that were buried in a sealed jar. And these documents date back to the 3rd and 4th century. And the writings are in total comprise 52 treatises. And this includes works from the Corpus Hermeticum and partial translations of Plato's Republic. The first translations were completed by the Carl Gustav Jung Institute in 1951. And this manuscript, or these codexes, they were actually acquired by the Carl Gustav Jung Institute at an antique auction, and they were held in the Institute's possession until the time of Carl Jung's death, at which time there was some discrepancies as to who these texts actually truly belonged to, and the Institute actually decided to return them back to the Egyptians, and now it resides, I believe, at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. So these texts, they are amazing. They're absolutely gorgeous. There are several new documents that we never had recordings of before. And I have written a quote on the front page of your workbook. And this quote is from the Three Forms of the First Thought, which is from one of the treaties from Codex number 8. And it says, I am the first thought, the thought that is in light. I am movement that is in all, she in whom the realm of all takes its stand. Firstborn among those who came into being, she who existed before all. I descend into the underworld and shone down on the darkness. I poured water. I am hidden in the radiant waters. I gradually dawn on all by my thought. I am weighed down with the voice. Through me knowledge comes. I am ineffable and unknowable. I am perception and knowledge, uttering a voice by the means of thought. I am the real voice. I cry out in everyone, and they recognize it, since a seed lives within them. I am the Father's thought, and through me came the voice, the knowledge of everlasting things. I am as thought for all. I am joined to unknowable and intangible thought. I revealed myself in all those who know me, for I joined everyone in hidden thought and exalted voice, and in a voice from the invisible thought. But now I have come down and reached chaos. I was there with my own. I am hidden in them, empowering them and giving them shape. From the first day until I grant enormous power to those who are mine, I will reveal myself to those who have heard my mysteries, the children of light. I wanted to share this quote from this treatise because working with the High Priestess, we're working with, one, the wisdom traditions, and two, the understanding of the Aramaic cultures of wisdom was that this force, this energy, was the movement of a feminine energy. So the translation into the English language of the Holy Spirit, for example, really does not actually embody the understanding of the language, which is that this is a divine feminine spirit that comes down from the Father or the Godhead. And so we're working with this knowledge of this feminine attributes of the High Priestess and wisdom, also sometimes known as Sophia, the Sophia writings. So with the High Priestess, I also have another quote here from one of my favorite treatises called Thunder from the Nag Hammadi Codex number 6. And I'll actually post the full version of this on the Facebook page. So if you're able to read the full version of this, it's absolutely gorgeous. Actually, sorry, the link won't be on the Facebook page. It will be on the web page for additional class material you can follow up on. So the quote says, I am the knowledge of my search, the finding of those who look for me, the command of those who ask about me, the power of powers. In my knowledge of angels sent at my word, and in the gods in their season sent by my counsel, and the spirit of all who exist within me, and of women who live in me. So connecting with the goddess energy of the High Priestess. Turning to the next page of your workbook, the first page, we're going to be moving through these spheres of energy. We're going to be moving through the first sphere of the crown chakra, through the sixth sphere of the sun chakra or beauty chakra. And this area is this pathway that runs from the crown of the head all the way down to our solar plexus, that little divvy just in between the lungs there. And so this energy connects deeply into the heart. And the High Priestess is known as the keeper of our hearts. If we can pass through her veils and her initiations, we can actually open up this hidden sphere. And the hidden sphere is located in behind the heart. It's called Da'ath. And this is where all points meet, all things connect in. You can access any other points of reality, space, time. It's kind of that place of, I guess in some traditions, as the Akashic records, where all information is available. And that door is hidden behind our hearts. It's a secret door. And that's where all things can be accessed through that space. So as we work with the High Priestess, we're working to open up our hearts, discover what we truly desire, and also open up the third eye, open up that crown chakra and open up the third eye chakra to receive wisdom and information, to open up our intuition and flow. So we're working with the waters of creation with the High Priestess on path number 13, which is very interesting because the High Priestess really does represent the moon, this lunar energy. And so we also see on path 13, 13 is a very important number for the moon because we have 13 cycles of the moon in a year. So reading through the first paragraph on that workbook page, we have, the spirit of the Divine Mother guards the secrets to a mystical life. As you gain inward to the heart, she lifts the veil of the great mystery to amazing wonders. You cross the valley of darkness, the abyss, Da'ath. You are the High Priestess using the power of water to initiate yourself into the wisdom traditions by following the path of the moon. You balance the forces of your animal nature with your spiritual nature. This is the first mystery, the mystery of the transmigrating soul. Listen to your intuition, know your inner self, remember who you are, and bring balance to your emotions' intelligence. As you cross the void to the place of true love, she is the Holy Spirit, and together you are the uniting intelligence. Alchemy 101. All knowledge and understanding are within my reach when I look and feel into my heart. I am the High Priestess, unerring in my intuition. So let's break down the symbology. Of course, the power of this card is in the west with the water, and the symbol for the west for the water is the upside down triangle, the vessel, right? Like the womb. Then we have the symbol for the moon, of course. And then below here, we have the symbol for Isis and Hathor. And traditionally, this symbol was actually a sun disk in the center with the horned moons on the side representing the phases of the moon. In modern day, we just see this as the moon and her phases. So there is a bit of a difference. So if you look into ancient Egyptology, we'll often see the sun disk on top of the gods and goddesses representing sort of the illuminated consciousness, along with these horns that will be along the side of the moon, which represent, again, the moon energies. This is this balancing of the moon and sun energy within the body to awaken to a higher consciousness, a higher awareness. Let's break down the card. So we have the number 2, and the number 2 is a very important number. They're all important numbers, but this one I find to be quite exceptional because it really does represent a doorway. It really does represent this opportunity to step through an initiation into a new space, a new place of being. So here we have the pillars of duality, or the pillars of Hermes, with this number 2. And this number 2 is the balancing forces of equilibrium. So we have to remember, for any relationship to take place, it takes 2. There has to be this give and take, this interconnection. So the number 2 really is a doorway that is left open. And you just kind of have to walk through the gates. So if you start to see the number 2 show up in your life quite a bit, it does represent that you're about to initiate into a new, walk through into a new beginning, walk through into a new understanding, a new way of doing things, and also bringing balance as well, balance to yourself. So the High Priestess is the guardian, and she's always mirroring back to ourselves, who we are, what's going on. And that is really the element of the moon as well. The moon works to rebalance us by showing us what we need to change and transform, working as that mirror. Now, in the text here on the screen, you can see that I underlined the doorway left open, which this is kind of where you begin to understand the keys of language. So the left pillar of the two pillars is always known as the feminine pillar. It's the more receptive, more passive kind of energy. And here we see the door left open. So even the word left, the two meanings of left, left open, and also the power of the left side, has this aspect of something opening up, a door kind of opening up, this sort of movement of feminine energy. When you begin to unlock the understandings of letters and the roots of letters, you kind of begin to unlock the magic of words and spells and language and what they really mean at these deeper levels. One of the best ways to do that is actually to study the Hebrew language. It really does open up this new area of understanding of how languages work. So the next part here, we're going to break down the pillars of Shu, or also known as the pillars of Hercules. So there's so many different names for these pillars. We see them showing up in Freemasonry. We see them showing up in the Temple of Solomon. We see them showing up in Greek history, in the Egyptians. These pillars are really about these structures that hold up the firmament of this reality. And this is true because for this material world to exist, there has to be polarity. There has to be a negative and a positive charged element to it. And it's this duality that actually creates the three-dimensional world. So we talk about numbers as 1, 2, 3. You know, for the three-dimensional world to make manifest, we must have the two pillars that are there creating this polarity, this dynamic, this charge between the two. So on the left pillar, we have the Boaz pillar. And the left side corresponds to the feminine principle. There's a yin energy connected to it, night, time, darkness, passivity, some abstract thought, creativity, coolness, sort of a negative charged polarity. And on the right, we have the Yakin, which represents the masculine principle with a yang energy, with day energy, active, the logic, heat connected to it, positively charged polarities. So with anything, we could see these dualities, and you can place them either on the Boaz pillar or the Yakin pillar. The Freemasons wrote a lot about these two pillars, so did the Golden Dawn system, but it's just really kind of understanding these two energies that are living within us, right? The sun and the moon energy. So the pillar on the left is that moon energy, and the pillar on the right is that sun energy. This is a quote from the Golden Dawn Book 1, written by Israel Regardie, and it says that these pillars express the interchange and reconciliation of opposing forces and the eternal balance of light and darkness, which gives force to visible nature. And this is true. It's not just representing the duality, but it's also representing the equilibrium, the balance, the reconciliation that happens between these two forces interchanging with one another. So I'll put a link to some information on the Kabbalion. And the Kabbalion is a text, an alchemical text written in the early 1900s. So, just over 100 years ago, and they kind of wrote these 7 principles about life. And in the 4th principle, they talk about the principle of polarity. And in here, it says that everything is dual, everything has 2 poles, everything has an opposite. All manifested things have 2 sides, 2 aspects, or 2 poles. Everything is and isn't at the same time. All truths are but half-truths, and every truth is half false. There are 2 sides to everything. Opposites are identical in nature, yet different in degree. Extremes meet, and paradoxes may be reconciled. So it's where we have these 2 opposing forces coming together to be reconciled. And this is what actually leads to the opening of the central pillar, or the central column within the body, known as the Sushumna in the Hindu tradition. This opens up this pathway to find reconciliation, balance, truth, but also to actually work towards attaining a form of enlightenment. I like to describe enlightenment as actually being totally happy and totally at peace, no matter if you're sitting in the middle of a shitstorm. That you could still experience emotions of sadness and grief and loss, but at the same time be totally happy and content. To me, this is the true ideal of what enlightenment is in that process. So there's this peace that lives within you, this peace within your heart, sort of an unconditional love. So on the card, we see that the High Priestess is sitting in front of a veil, and this veil is marked with the imageries of palm trees and pomegranates. And palm trees are a pretty important plant. They're used in symbology, going through all of the Aramaic cultures, and then going, of course, into the temples of Egypt themselves. And the palm trees are very special because they have this ability to survive in desert lands, to be able to soak up and absorb water, and almost in a way contain its own water within itself, and be able to self-perpetuate its own life in that process. So the palm trees do represent the tree of life. They represent this fountain of eternal essence that one can tap into. Then the mysteries of the pomegranate, well, those are the mysteries of the pomegranate. So in any readings, you can do a lot of research on this. You're not going to actually find too much information because it is a mystery. You have to actually dwell on the ideas of the pomegranate and what the pomegranate represents to actually unlock what it means. But the pomegranate itself points to the Aleutian mysteries. And if you haven't watched the preliminary video to the High Priestess and the Empress about Persephone and the moon and the Aleutian mysteries, please go back and watch that, because this begins to break down what was really going on in the Aleutian mysteries, and the mysteries of, I guess you would say, the bride chamber, which involves this aspect of baptism. There is a book that definitely you should follow up with, which is the Mysteries of the Bridal Chamber. And there's a link for that in the follow-up material. It's a fabulous book that really begins to help to unravel what was really happening at the onset of the new Christian sort of awakening that was taking place, and also the mixing of these Aleutian mystery traditions that open us up to these higher levels of consciousness and awareness involved through these aspects of baptism. So the veil here is the veil of the mysteries, and that we can peer into the veil of the mysteries. And behind the veil of the mysteries is the waters of creation, also known as the void. This is one of the reasons why I try and teach you in the Sacred Spaces course to go into the place of the void, the place of absolute darkness, absolute blackness, which is really the place of negative existence. And that place of negative existence is a place of infinite potential, infinite possibility. And all the creative forces, everything that can emerge comes out of these waters of creation. So in her dress, we see that she has the crown of the moon and the ancient symbol of Isis and Hathor. And this represents, of course, the moon's phases and also the duality of the moon, which in the indigenous culture, we call her the double-faced woman. And the energy of the moon is, both mother and daughter, or saint and harlot. There's this aspect of the duality of the energy of the moon, which is sort of connected to sort of your spirituality and your emotional body. And then we see on her chest is the crossing point of the heart. And this opens up access to the sphere of Da'ath, the hidden sphere behind the heart, where all points converge and are accessed. So if you want to know your true heart's desire, what your life's purpose is, how you're meant to move forward, you need to go through the High Priestess. You need to go through this feminine aspect of the movement of spirit to access this information and move it to this place of relationship, or I guess you would say holy communion in some regards. We also see that her dress with the blue veil kind of coming down and trickling down like water is very important too. This connects, of course, to the Virgin Mary, and also Mary Magdalene. So we have these, again, these sacred traditions of womanhood, of, Persephone and Demeter, the mother-daughter relationship, of both, all of these things, all coming together in this. So we see also that she's holding the sacred scroll that has the letters T-O-R-A on there, and that she's also sitting with the crescent moon at the base of her feet. So in her hands, she holds the book of Thoth, and the knowledge of the entire wheel of life. So these 4 letters, T-O-R-A, can be interpreted as the word Torah, which is the first Hebrew books of the Hebrew Bible. And then we can rearrange the letters to say tarot, which represents, of course, the tarot deck, the book of Thoth. Or we can rearrange the words to say rota, and rota means wheel. So literally the wheel of life, the wheel of everything is wrapped up. She owns it and knows it and is there to share with you and teach you these mysteries. And to connect with her, we have to, again, go through this power of the moon. This is this aspect of being reborn, becoming reborn through this energy and this power. So the crescent moon, of course, appears a few days after the new moon, and the crescent moon is considered to be a builder moon, where you're starting to build in the energy towards the full moon. So there's definitely, the high priestess is, again, this sort of initiation, these rites, these beginnings of these new movements, and this power. Yeah, the high priestess is really quite a phenomenal card when it talks about mystery traditions or understanding her knowledge. So key themes include intuition, psychic receptivity, spirituality, inward reflection, ancient knowledge, self-awareness, heart magic, higher insight, and of course, moon practices. It's through this power of the moon that we begin to understand our lower nature, because the moon will bring up within us what we need to transform and change. I wrote an entire program about this, and I probably should write a book about it, because there's just so much to be talked about the power of the moon and how it all interrelates and connects. This power of the moon is really also connected to baptism of the Spirit. There is some evidence to point that Jesus was actually doing secret baptisms in the middle of the night through the power of the moon. And again, that's in that book that I recommend, the Secrets of the Bridal Chamber book. That book is really a beautiful, beautiful book that starts to put a lot of the pieces of the puzzle together and understanding what a lot of our ancient ancestors were doing in these sort of initiations to transform us. I also like to think of the high priestess very similar to the sweat lodge, and it says the sweat lodge is this example of the womb, and we're returning into the mother to go into the place of the void, the place of the waters, and then we are transformed, and when we walk out, we're born anew. I really feel that the sweat lodge is one of those mystery traditions that actually survived the onslaught of the Catholic Church, or the politicalized version of the Catholic Church. So, some of these mystery traditions are still alive today. You just have to find them. So if you ever see this card turned in reverse, we can see that the energy of this card would represent confusion, unwholesome psychic phenomena, inauthentic expression, lying to your heart, a closed heart, being cold and emotionally unavailable. So if you ever pull this card for yourself in the reversed, I think it's definitely time you need to reconnect in with your spirit and refine those threads of wisdom and truth in there. So as I mentioned before, the moon is the guardian of our hearts, and she holds the key to unlock our higher nature. So to learn her mysteries is to discover what needs to be changed and transmuted. And her power is to reflect the inner workings of what's going on for ourselves. So her rhythms offer us a measure to navigate the waters of life, a compass to live a life full of purpose. And her mysteries can teach us everything we need to know about the natural cycles of death and rebirth. So also, when is the best opportunity to seize the moment? I feel that actually working with moon alchemy
is the most important thing one can do in their spiritual practice to begin to initiate change, awareness, and to let go of the past and move forward in a new direction. So the moon, or the goddess Luna, is really quite a mystery. How the moon came to be is a bit of a strange phenomena. There's many different theories out there of how the moon came to be. All of these are theories. None of them are actually proven, and they don't actually prove themselves in the physics. So when the physics is done to actually say, oh, the moon came from a piece of the earth and, it's a part of the earth, doesn't make any sense. So there's a lot of interesting things and mysteries about the moon. You'll find a video posted on the webpage about the mysteries of the moon. In this video, it's very cute and obviously very fascinating, but I don't necessarily agree with everything in the video. It does go to a lot of conspiracy theory, that type of thing, of what the moon is or isn't. But I think it's important to remember that the moon is a mystery, and it should remain a mystery, because that's the whole element of working with this beautiful power. I mean, even the idea of why the moon is the exact same size as the sun during an eclipse is like mind-boggling. Like these two disks, in the sky, these balancing energies of feminine and masculine energy is beyond me, right? So the moon at the full moon will work to activate our lower nature, to bring forth what needs to be changed. And of course, really acts as that reflective mirror to our shadow side, in helping us to do our shadow work, to transform it, to come to that balancing place. The Greeks thought that the moon was one and the same with Persephone. And so I really recommend that, again, you watch that video and understanding who Persephone was and what she was teaching. So remembering that the moon is really a tool to harmonize us with the universe, and the knowledge of how to grow and create and to harvest, so that we could bring abundance into our lives, but also come into a deeper relationship with the cycles of life, death, and rebirth, with that understanding that when life is given, death is an absolute. That those are the things of living on a prime material plane. So the more we become reconciled with the cycles of life and death, the more that we can become okay with things dying and letting go or not working out. Nothing is permanent here. Everything is impermanent. And the more we tune in with the natural cycles of life, death, and rebirth, the more we can actually be in harmony with the material world outside of us as well. So what's interesting is that it takes 2.5 days for the moon to move through each sign, and 29.5-day orbit through all of the zodiacs. So again, she moves through the sky she does 13 cycles, full cycles a year. But again, it does a full orbit every 29.5 days. So in your research, you're going to look for the position of your moon in your natal chart. And on this chart here, we can see that my natal moon is conjunct Pluto at about 18 degrees Libra in my 6th house. So find out where it is for you and what that means for you. Do the research for it. And then what I'd like you to do is to find out where the next new moon and full moon will be in your chart. And of course, the link to the moon charts, where you could find the degrees are going to be and the times, are going to be on the web page. So just follow through that and find out where the next new moon and full moon will be in your chart. And understand that the new moons offer you a time for new beginnings, sowing your seeds, making plans. New things may show up for you in this house, whereas the full moon is all about completions, reassessing, weeding the garden, or also sometimes celebrations in the sense of the fact that you've accomplished something. If you go back to your astrology basics course material, I did send a PDF in there about working with the moon and the energy of the moon there, and so you can kind of maybe revisit that and take a look at that. So moving on to the 3rd page of your workbook, we're going to be working with the stone lapis linguis. And lapis linguis is a blend of azurite and malachite. And this stone was the stone that Edgar Cayce said was used in Atlantis and connected to the energy of Atlantis.
And so it has this mysterious energy of the universe, and this stone really works as a powerful third eye opener. What I love about this stone, because it has the malachite in it, it has a protective element to it and a grounding element to it. So you could still do these sort of expansion, opening up of the third eye, while at the same time being very protective and grounded. So we see this stone working to open up the development of psychic abilities, working as a visionary tool and a dream activator, recovering ancient knowledge, working with astral travel while remaining grounded, a protective stone, opening up your radar to danger, revealing the truth behind illusions, restoring balance, and of course connection with the divine feminine energies. The metal to work with, if you're going to work with a metal, is going to be silver, and silver is the highest conductor and reflective metal available, and really does work as a doorway into the ethereal realms. It is really a mirror, and our ancient ancestors used polished silver as a way to look at their own reflections like a mirror. So this is the metal of emotions and feminine energies. It helps to expand the psychic mind. It will deflect and reflect negative energy. It will amplify the power of stones. It's wonderful for evocations, and it pulls down and reflects the power of the moon. So I actually use like a big silver platter, and I put all my stones on the platter, and I'll put it outside in the full moon to charge the energies. Obviously in the wintertime, I don't put my stones outside because it's too cold, in the minus 10, 20, 30 temperatures. But in the spring and the summer and the fall, I put my stones on this silver platter, and I put them outside to attract down this energy of the full moon and charge them up. Of course, you can actually take silver in a form of colloidal silver. And colloidal silver is just ionized water with silver agent. And this works as a disinfectant. It's a great antibacterial agent. A lot of people swear for it for keeping their immune system strong. So you can always, if you want to work with the power of the moon, you could work with colloidal silver as well, ingesting it into your body as an alchemical practice. Silver will also cool the energy down in the body, so help to cool things down. So goddesses of the high priestess energy, there's tons, and there are tons of lunar goddesses. I have not even scratched the surface. There's literally hundreds of them connected to so many different cultures. Maybe find some from some other cultures that I haven't mentioned here. These ones, of course, are the classical sort of Roman and Greek goddesses. But we have Sophia and, of course, Mother Mary, or the Virgin Mary. We have Persephone and Luna. We have Nut, Hathor, and Isis, which is Egyptian. Then we have Selene, Artemis, Diana, Hecate. So all of these connect in with this lunar energy. There are many, many, many more. I encourage you to go out and find them and discover them. Plants are aloe, and of course aloe is amazing because it helps to soothe burns and heal burns. We have jasmine and camphor as well. Jasmine, of course, is a flower that flowers in the evening, or it puts off a scent in the evening. So again, connecting with that sort of night energy. Pomegranates, the sacred symbol for Persephone and the Eleusinian mysteries. Daffodils, which is again a sacred flower for Persephone. Poppies, which is the sacred flower for Demeter, her mother. And then we have coconut and sandalwood and melisas, wintergreen, and of course blue lotus. So that blue lotus is this beautiful feminine energy. Any flowers that also flower at night or put off a stronger scent at night, these ones are connected to this moon energy. Animals will include things like white rabbits or the hare, bears, owls, spiders, frogs, fish. Fish are a big one too for the goddess energy. We have cats, of course, the famous black cats, dolphins and whales as well. So we're going to work with the power of humming, not quite the same as the breath of the bee with the magician card, but similar in the sense of using our voice to hum. And humming, basically, it works in many levels. It rearranges the molecular structures, it will increase lymphatic circulation, increases melatonin and production. It helps to release endorphins and create new neural pathways. Increases nitric oxide, which basically warms up the body, and helps to release stress and increase oxytocin. So for your homework in the evening call, you will face the direction of the west with the High Priestess card and your stone before you, and then you'll use the moon oil and recite the call, and then lay down with your crown of your head towards the west. And with the crown of your head towards the west, you're going to take your left hand and put it on your heart with a little bit of moon oil, and take your right hand or your right fingers and put it on your third eye with a little bit of moon oil. And there you'll begin to massage in a clockwise fashion if you're able to. I know it can get kind of weird and odd when you're trying to do this, but just, moving your hands, your intention, of course, will be the most important thing. So intention of connecting and merging sort of the third eye and the heart, and opening up these two energy centers will begin to open up that psychic perception, that intuition, but also the connection with your heart. You don't want to open up your third eye without opening up your heart. If you open up your third eye without opening up your heart, this is going to lead to unwholesome psychic phenomena. Around every corner, you'll see a dark energy. That's mostly because you're going to be mirroring your lower chakras in your aura around you. So this is one of the reasons why we want to work to clear out our lower nature, open up the space of the heart, and then safely open up the third eye, because in this way, we can actually connect into this higher intuition and see truth in the truest lens available to us, and that is through the lens of the heart. So the call is, I now call upon the power of the High Priestess and the moon to initiate me to the path of my heart, to open up my intuition and inner wisdom. I carry with me the power of azurite and malachite to facilitate this transmutation. And then you take a little bit of oil on your fingertips and your left hand on your heart and your right hand on your third eye, and massaging them in a clockwise fashion. And then when you are done, just sit up, face the west, and say the affirmation: all knowledge and understanding are within my reach when I look into and feel into my heart. I am the priestess, unerring in my intuition. So yeah, that pretty much covers the High Priestess, and I have only scratched the surface of the energy of the High Priestess and the energy of the moon and the power of the moon and the mysteries connected with this, including the mysteries of baptism and the mysteries of the sweat lodge and the mysteries of the Aleutian mysteries and the mysteries of the bridal chamber. This is an area of life that is pretty much ever unfolding, always revealing new understandings to it. But I do have a bonus exercise for you. So the bonus exercise in the next 2 weeks is to take a few ritual baths in the next few weeks and contemplate the power of the High Priestess, baptizing yourself with her wisdom, especially during the void of the moon. And the void of the moon is that 24-hour period before the new moon starts. It's when there's complete darkness all around. If you could do it in the evening at that period of time, while the void of the moon, the day before the new moon starts, go into that space and just initiate yourself into the sacred mysteries of the High Priestess, the sacred mysteries of the Holy Spirit. So here I have a quote from the Mysteries of the Bride Chamber, which I've mentioned a few times already in this lecture. But this quote I thought would be a beautiful way to end this class. Resurrection marks a transformation in the subtle body. It occurs when exousia, coursing through the heart chakra, causes a new cognitive organ to develop, like an eye opening in wonder to a world transformed. The great Gnostic teacher believed that when baptism is truly effected, initiation, this wondrous perceptual awakening takes place. And so this is where I'm asking you to have a perceptual awakening. Begin to see things in a different way. Begin to see things in a new light. Connect in with that psychic receptivity. Connect in with that wisdom of the heart. This is the power of the High Priestess. She is welcoming you to step through these gates and walk through the pillars of Shu, the pillars of light. Much love to you all. I hope you enjoyed this lecture and that you enjoy your time working with the High Priestess. And we will continue on with the next lecture of the Empress.